एंड वेलकम एवरीवन टू द डेली न्यूज एनालिसिस ऑफ 14th ऑफ नवंबर 2023। तो आज के इम्पोर्टेंट आर्टिकल पहले वन बाय वन देखते हैं। पहला जो है रिटेल इन्फ्लेशन इजेस टू ए 4 month लो ऑफ 4.87% इन अक्टूबर। देन बैटरी पावर्ड बोट्स टू ग्लाइड ओवर वाटरवेज ऑफ श्रीनगर नेक्स्ट समर। Then growth dichotomy, remission of diabetes desirable but not essential. Madhya Pradesh in bottom half of all state level ranking. Then community rights and forest conservations. Center extend UAPA ban on 8 Meitei extremist organization. Delhi most populated city in the world according to Swiss survey. Then Jaishankar meets newly appointed UK Foreign Secretary. Then Ranil presents a budget aimed at aiding economic recovery in Sri Lanka. Then last का जो है Pakistan and China navies to carry out joint sea patrol. फर्स्ट का आर्टिकल है रिटेल इन्फ्लेशन इजेस टू ए 4 month low of 4.87% in October. India's retail inflation pace eased to a 4 month low of 4.87% in October from a tad over 5% in September, with the rise in vegetable prices easing to 2.7% from 3.4%. Through overall consumer food price inflation remained virtually unchanged at 6.6%. While base effect from last October when retail price surged to 6.8% helped cool the headline inflation rate. Some, some deceleration was also seen in the prices of the non-food items such as services, clothing, and footwear as well as fuel and light. Aided by the LPG cylinder price cut, fuel and light costs dropped to 0.4% from last October levels. Rural and urban inflation. Inflation faced by rural consumers eased from 5.33% in September to 5.1%, but urban households saw a fractional increase in inflation at 4.65%. On a month-on-month basis, consumer prices were up 0.65%, while food prices were up to 1.06%, with urban food price rising 1.14%. The Reserve Bank of India is unlikely to lower the interest rates anytime soon, especially as the food prices situation remains sticky and reserved is sequential direction from a 2.2% month-on-month drop in September. The RBI has recently vowed to remain focused on price rise till it sustains around its 4% target rather than be satisfied with inflation points between the 4% mark and the upper tolerance threshold of 6%. While there was some slight relief in the inflation rate for cereals from 11% in September to 10.65% in October, meat and fish from 4.1% to 3.3%, and milk down 6.44%, and spices, which remained elevated at 22.8% in October. These were offset by gains on other fronts. Of rice, the pace of price rise in key protein sources like pulses, eggs accelerated sharply to 18.8% and 9.3% respectively. Inflation in fruits and sugar picked up pace to hit 9.3% and 5.5%. Next है battery powered boats to glide over the waterways of Srinagar next summer. The waterways that once led Mughal emperors from the city fort in Srinagar to the idyllic gardens Shalimar and Nishant Bagh at Jabarwan Hills will soon return to their glory days. Battery-driven roofed boats are all set to be introduced on Dal Lake and Jhelum River by next summer. They will reach even the interiors of the city. We are all set to introduce water and transport on the Dal Lake and Jhelum River in Srinagar too. decongest and offer an alternative modes of public transport. The process of approving board samples is in its final stage. Two types of boards, 8-seater and 20-seaters, will be introduced in the first phase by the next year. Anuj Malhotra, General Manager of Planning, Srinagar Smart City Limited, told the Hindu. 32 boats will serve the lake and river crisis crisscrossing the old city with temples and shrines dotting the riverfront. It will be a zero pollution and affordable public transport, Mr. Malhotra said. It is in no way competition to the leisure rides of the Shikaraj, he added. He also planned a cafeteria, public spaces, and shelters around the lake. According to the official plan, the new boats will use the traditional causeways to cover the five basins of the lake: Nehru Park, Nishat Bagh, Hazratbal, Naigin, and Barari Nambal. This will be the first time since 1960s that the Dal Lake backwaters will be opened to visitors, especially the Dalgate uh, Renwari Hazrat Bal waterway. The process of identifying choked canals, the result of rapid urbanization, is underway. We have already made the water canal access to the Shalimar Garden navigable. Travelers could just get in front of the Shalimar Garden now, Mr. Malhotra said. Public transport on the Dal Lake is a part of the 980 crore rupees Srinagar Smart City project. Then next, growth dichotomy. Growth dichotomy. Slow in the industry. Industrial output growth shows low consumer confidence. In September, the index of industrial production or IIP rose 5.8%, almost half of the 14-month high. 10.3% growth in August. Most economists anticipated a 7% to 8% uptick in the month that marks the onset of India's packed festive calendar. September's factory output growth was the slowest in 3 months, but also marked a 2.4% drop in production level compared to August. Manufacturing led the decline with the year-on-year growth dropping from 9.3% in August to 4.5% in September, and production volumes declining 2% month-on-month. In August, just 7 of the 23 manufacturing sectors have clocked a contraction, but that list expanded to 9 in September, with furniture dropping 20% and apparel production almost 18%. What is more worrying is that 12 sector recorded a sequential decline in output this September, belying hopes that farms would ramp up inventories in anticipation of festival spending. Producers' lack of confidence is low. Consumer impulses is reflected in consumer durables and non-durables, which were up just 1% and 2.7% respectively, on top of a 5.5 plus contraction last September. Sequentially, consumer non-durables, what one may broadly consider as fast-moving consumer goods involving smaller ticket spends, were down 3.5%, with the lowest output level seen since November 2022. Electricity generation also fell 6.6% sequentially in September, perhaps due to the higher rainfall recorded over August. On the whole, September's IIP takes average factory output growth to 7.4% in the second quarter, lifting the uptake in the first half of the 2023-24 to 6%. This may still weigh in well with the central bank chief hopes of a Q2 GDP growth outpacing their official projection of 6.5%, but a splice of the IIP indicates an asymmetry in the economy, and a fresh fog lies in the road ahead. Consumer goods output was just 0.3% higher than the pre-COVID-19 level this September, with durable being the only use-based segment to record a contraction so far this year. By contrast, output has been more resilient in investment-linked sectors such as the infrastructure, construction goods, and capital goods of 12.1% and 6.7% respectively this year. Public capex on infrastructure sector has surely lifted output of items such as steel and cement through the first half of the year, while high inflation has eaten into all but the high income consumers' propensity to spend. Going forward, capex spend that have been front loaded this year may moderate, and additional revenue spends ahead of the Lok Sabha election are likely, especially with sensitive commodities such as fuel, area, and food facing fresh volatility in prices. That infrastructure and construction goods output in September was the lowest since March 2023 suggests one growth tide may be ebbing, which makes the other more fragile consumption story even more critical to watch. Remission of diabetes desirable but not essential. The concept of a reversal of diabetes has become very popular recently. Several commercial organizations have jumped on the bandwagon of a reversal of diabetes and making tall claims. Therefore, it is important to consider the pros and cons of reversal of diabetes. First, the term reversal of diabetes is scientifically incorrect. The appropriate term is remission of diabetes. Reversal implies that the condition has permanently reverted to normal and a cure has been achieved. Remission implies that diabetes has only gone away temporarily. We know, for instance, that cancer can go into remission but can come back in a more virulent form. Remission and type 2 diabetes. Diabetes is not a single condition but consists of several types. When we talk of remission of diabetes, we are referring most often to type 2 diabetes. However, there are other forms of diabetes such as type 1 diabetes where long-term remission is very unlikely to occur. Can everyone with type 2 achieve remission? Some diabetes reversal program claims that they can reverse type 2 diabetes at any stage of the disorder. This is not true. There are certain individuals with type 2 diabetes who are more likely to achieve remission. This can be identified by the letters A, B, C, D, E. A refers to A1C glycated hemoglobin, which should not be very high. B refers to body mass index or body weight. If it is high, you are more likely to achieve remission due to weight loss. C stands for C peptide, a measure of insulin secretion. If it is good, you can achieve remission more easily. D stands for duration of diabetes. The shorter the duration, the greater chances of remission. And E stands for an enthusiastic individual who is keen to achieve the remission. One should remember that even if one achieves a remission of diabetes only for a few months or years, it is still worthwhile because it leads to a good legacy effect which provides protection from complications caused by diabetes. What about those who cannot achieve remission? Should they be disheartened? Definitely not. Indeed, in many experiences, the majority of people with type 2 diabetes should find it difficult to achieve long-term remission of their diabetes. Even among those who do so, in the majority of cases, diabetes returns after a few months. The severity of the diabetes is often much worse than when it was before the person went into remission, leading a long and healthy life. I would like to assure people who do not achieve remission that nothing is lost. My experience over the last 4 to 5 decades has taught me that all that is needed to have a long and healthy life despite diabetes is to follow another set of ABCD linked mantras. A1C or glycated hemoglobin should be below 7% or possible even before 6.5%. B blood pressure should be less than 130 by 80 mm HGL or age appropriate for the age. C. Cholesterol LDL cholesterol should be less than 550 mg per dl or at least below 70 mg per dl. D. Discipline which include healthy diet, exercise and frequent checkups with your diabetologist. We were among the first to show that the if ABCD is maintained, people with diabetes can live long with healthy lives. Indeed, 50 or 60 years of survival with diabetes and with no complications whatsoever is possible. The ultimate aim of the treatment of diabetes is to have diabetes complication free life. Today, diabetes remains a suboptimally controlled, which is why it is a leading cause of blindness, amputations, heart attacks, stroke, kidney failure, and impotence. Very often, we find people in the prime of their life affected by one or more of these devastating complications, which affects not only the individuals but also his or her family. It can ultimately even impact the economy of the country. Data on India, according to our recent Indian Council of Medical Research, India Diabetes ICMR INDIAB study, there are currently 101 million people with diabetes and 136 million people with diabetes in India. In those with pre-diabetes, preventing the majority of these individuals from developing diabetes for a considerable number of years is possible with just lifestyle modifications. In those who already have diabetes, we should of course try to achieve remission of diabetes. But if this is not possible, meeting the ABCD guidelines of the treatment of diabetes will ensure that they can all live a long and healthy life without any diabetes linked complications. Even though we may not be able to make India diabetes free, my dream is that we can at least have a diabetes complication free India. On the occasion of the World Diabetes Day, November 14, let us dedicate ourselves to achieve this dream. And next time, Madhya Pradesh in bottom of half of all the state level ranking. The Madhya Pradesh Assembly election are scheduled to take place on November 17. A comparison of the economic, social, and environmental indicator of the poll-bound state with the indicators of other states shows that Madhya Pradesh features at the bottom half. Also, its relative ranking among the states remained stagnant in the most of the indicators between 2015-16 and 2019-21. Table 1 lists Madhya Pradesh rank in social indicator and its actual score in the N indicator in 2019-21, 2015-16, and 2005-6. It also shows the change in the rank in 2019-21 from 2015-16. The performance of the top three states in the finding in the indicator are also given for comparison. For instance, Madhya Pradesh had 35.7% stunted children, low height for age in 2019-21 and ranked 25 out of 30 states. The three best performing states that year were Kerala 23.4%, Punjab 24.5% and Tamil Nadu 25%. In this indicator, Madhya Pradesh ranking improved by just one spot in 2019-21 from 2015-16, the year when the state was placed in 26th out of the 30 states. Across most social indicators, there has been no notable improvement in the last few years. For instance, the share of girls women who attended school was 64% in 2015-16 and improved to only 67.5% in 2019-21. Only those aged 6 and above were considered. The share of the underweight children low weight for age improved marginally from 42.8% to 33%, while the infant mortality rate recorded a small improvement from 51.2 to 41.3. The state's ranking in the parameter of underweight children improved only by two spots from 28 to 26, and in The parameter of infant mortality rate only by one spot 28 to 27 among the 30 states considered. In fact, a comparison with data from 2005 to 6 shows that the ranking have hardly improved since in that period. Madhya Pradesh ranked in at the bottom of the table in many social indicators. It is no longer holds that dubious distinction. For instance, in 2005-6, the state ranked at the bottom of the list in share of the wasted children weight for height and underweight children. In 2005-6, only 28 states were considered for comparison. The data of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh were ignored given the interior social rankings. Madhya Pradesh rank in the Human Development Index remained poor in 1990 and 2021 as well. In 1990, its SDI ranking was 26 of 30 states. This leads to 27 in 2021. Madhya Pradesh economy performance is among the worst in the country. In fact, its ranking worsened between 1993-94 and 2021-22. In 1993-94, the state ranked 19 of 27 states in per capita net share domestic product current prices as seen in table 3. This declined by 2 spots in 2021-22. Notably, over half the population in the state belongs to the lowest two wealth quintiles. Madhya Pradesh manufacturing sector employed around 7% in the state workforce, and the sector's share in the total gross value added was about 9%. The state ranks at the bottom half of the table in both measures in educational indicator. In 2020, Madhya Pradesh ranked over 20 of the 30 states on indicators such as enrollment in elementary, higher education and college level education. The gross enrollment ratio in higher education was only 21.5%, while the state lags behind the country in terms of economic performance. It is better in environment related indicators. Table 7, the state generated a relatively lower amount of hazardous and plastic waste and featured at the top half of the state list. The next are community rights and forest conservations. The Forest Conservation Amendment Act of 2023 has received limited attention and little discussion about its impact on forest and in its inhabitants. From the colonial forest law in 1865 to the Forest Conservation Amendment Act of 2023, more than 15 laws, acts, and policies have been formulated interlinking forest with legal and policy framework. However, there is little to no recognition of the rights of indigenous community in these acts who are the rightful inhabitants of forest lands. What is the new amendment? At first glance, the amendment primarily aims to tackle the critical issue of climate change and reforestation's adverse effect, focusing on effective management and afforestation. The law further aims to determine how forest can be utilized for economic gains, and the manner in which it seeks to achieve this goal is outlined in the legislation. The primary method used to achieve this objective involves removing forest from the law's jurisdiction, thereby facilitating various forms of economic exploitations. As per the amendment, the forest law will now apply exclusively to areas categorized under the 1927 Forest Act and those designated as such on or after October 25, 1980. The Act will not be applicable to forests that were converted for non-forest use on or after December 12, 1996, and land which falls under 100 kilometers from China and Pakistan border, where the central government can build in linear projects to security infrastructure and facilities for surveillance. The central government is authorized to construct security measures in areas up to 10 hectares. This provision also applies to areas up to 5 hectares which are designated and as vulnerable. Within this region, the government with the necessary approvals can implement security protocols as described above. Initiatives like ecotourism, safari, environmental entertainment, and more may be implemented in these areas. The main objective of these initiatives is to improve the livelihood of those reliant on forest resources, a goal that has drawn criticism from the tribal communities and human rights activists. Why was the amendment brought in? The Budavaram Tirumul case, a prominent legal dispute that came before the Supreme Court in 1996, led to an interpretation of the forest land in accordance with its dictionary meaning. Subsequently, all private forests were brought under the ambit of the 1980 law. This has been a subject of debate as it was argued that the legislation primarily aims to restrict forest land from being used for various non-forest purposes, including the conservation of land for large-scale industries. The law has faced significant opposition, especially from private landowners, individuals, and organizations involved in forest conservation for its perceived adverse impact on the country's industrial progress. In other words, the need to exclude forest land from the legal framework was mainly driven by the requirements of the industrial classes in the country. It is in the context that the concerns regarding the Forest Conservation Act tend to resurface periodically, echoing the apprehensions of indigenous community and human rights activists. These factors came to the forefront again when the Forest Conservation Amendment Bill was introduced in Parliament in March, triggering extensive discussion and debates. The Parliament then referred the bill to a 31-member Joint Parliamentary Committee. For did the JPC recommended of the 31-member JPC addressing the issue, only 6 individuals were from the opposition. The JPC submitted its report to Parliament on July 20. Within 3 months, the critical comments from the committee members and the public appear to have been largely disregarded, reduced to dissenting notes holding a minority viewpoint on the bill. Therefore, the bill successfully passed in both houses of the parliament without any substantial debate or discussions. There have been no collaborative discussion with the southern states concerning matters related to specific geographical locations. A few days after the act was enacted, the Odisha government revoked the deemed forest status in the state, but had no later cancelled the order due to public outrage and cited that it is waiting for detailed rules and guidelines from the concerned central ministry. If the government were to remove the forest from the purview of the Forest Conservation Act, it would effectively obstruct indigenous communities from asserting their rights. What happened to the stipulation of prior consent? The Forest Conservation Act underwent an important amendment in 2016 and 2017, which stipulated that prior consent from the tribal Grama Sabha was mandatory for any alteration to forest for non-forest purposes. However, the recent revisions to the legislation have removed the necessity for such consent. Nevertheless, in this situation, state government can proactively engage in the specific activities which within this framework through the inclusion of Gram Sabha, particularly in the matters of land acquisition for various purposes, by establishing state level steering committee. But numerous state governments might hesitate on this aspect as they hold on a preconceived notion that Adivasi Gram Sabhas are anti-development, and they fear that their discussion could hinder economically lucrative afforestation initiatives. What is compensatory afforestation? Compensatory afforestation, as outlined in the new legislation, encompasses various projects and schemes that can be undertaken by both private individuals and organizations, including large corporations for afforestation or reforestation purposes. The Compensatory Afforestation Act enacted encountered significant challenges in past, primarily due to the ambiguities in the original legislations and storage of available land. The goal of the new amendment is to streamline the process. However, there is apprehension regarding the potential environmental implications of this amendment. The law mandates that for every parcels of land that is lost due to afforestation efforts. An equivalent amount of land must be afforested elsewhere. It does not specify the types of trees that should be planted, leaving rooms for discretions. How does this affect the Forest Rights Act? The FRA has had notable impacts in the various regions such as the Mendha in Maharashtra, Luendi in Odisha, and Malakkapura in Kerala. Despite the initial enthusiasm, it appears that both central and state government have become less enthusiastic about implementing the FRA in their states. Many consider the act as an impediment to convert forest land for the non-forest purposes. The state government and its bureaucracy hold the view that the granting community right under the FRA could weaken the state's authority over the forest. They anticipate potential legal challenges to any such endeavors. To navigate this situation, the government has opted to reduce or dilute the extent of a forest rather than aimed the FRA, thereby limiting the potential for additional Adivasi claims. The amendment also fails to address the growing issue of human-animal conflict in forest areas, particularly in the Adivasi helmet of the Western Ghat in regions. These conflicts not only endanger the livelihood of the Adivasi but also poses a threat to wildlife. What are the problems? When examined superficially, the law appears to address the issues without complications. However, once the law is put into practice, it presents substantial challenges to forest-dwelling communities and government and agencies. The concept of afforestation, which offers considerable financial initiatives to private individuals and institutions for afforestation project, fundamentally clashes with the idea of a forest governance. Furthermore, it contradicts the concept of a decentralized forest governance, as forests in the country fall under the concurrent list. Such governance practices are against the spirit of a federal norms. Moreover, defining strategic linear project becomes exceptionally complex and vague. Unlike the external security threats like border disputes and cross-border skirmishes, internal environment security should also be considered a significant concern, especially in states that consistently face natural disaster. Regrettably, this priority is not guaranteed. The next is Central extend UAPA ban on 8 extremist organization. The Union Home Minister on Monday extended the ban under the Unlawful Activity Prevention Act (UAPA) against the 8 extremist organization for advocating secession of Manipur from India through armed struggle. It declared the 8 outfits unlawful association for the inciting indigenous people of Manipur for such sessions. A notification said the organization include the People's Liberation Army known as PLA and its political wing, the Revolutionary People Front RPF, the United National Liberation Front ULLF, and its armed wings, the Manipur People's Army MPA, the People Revolutionary Party of Kanglei Park, and its armed wing, the Red Army, the Kanglei Park Communist Party (KCP), and its armed wing, also called the Red Army, the Kanglei Yaulu Kanba Lul KYKL, the Coordination Committee (CORCOM), and the Alliance for Socialist Unity Kanglei Park ASUK. It added that the central government is of the opinion that the outfit have been engaging in activities prejudicial to the sovereignty and integrity of the India, employing and engaging in armed means to achieve their objective and attacking and killing the Security forces, police and civilians in Manipur indulging in acts of intimidation, extortion and looting of civilian population for collection of funds, making contact with the sources abroad for influencing public opinion and for securing their assistance by way of arms and training for the purpose of achieving their secessionist objective and maintaining camps in neighboring countries for the purpose of sanctuaries training and clandestine procurement of arms and ammunition. It is said that the government is of the opinion that the activities of the organization are detrimental to the sovereignty and integrity of the India and that they are unlawful association. It is said that if there is no immediate cops and control on the activities, they will take the opportunity to mobilize their cadres for escalating their secessionist subversive, terrorist and violent activists propagate anti-national activities in collision with forces inimical to sovereignty and integrity of India, indulge in killing of civilians and targeting of the police and security forces, personal procure and induct illegal arms and ammunition from across the international border and extort and collect huge funds from public. Then next is Delhi, most populated city in the world, Swiss survey. On Monday, on Monday, the day after Deepavali, three Indian meteorologists figured on the list of the most populated city in the world compiled by the Swiss air purifier company IQAIR. Delhi was the most polluted city in the world with an air quality index of 287, followed by Lahore, Pakistan at 195, Mumbai at 153 and Kolkata 166 were among the top 10. The IQAR's AQI measures data from 109 countries and the readings change hourly. It follows the US methodology and varies slightly from the Indian ones. The values are a measure of the quantities of particulate matter 2.5 considered most harmful for respiratory health through pollution from firecrackers are short-lived compared with those from persistent sources such as vehicle emissions and waste and biomass burning. The spikes in pollutant has a pronounced effect on health. Air pollution in parts of Delhi was 30 times the safe limits prescribed by the World Health Organization, contributed in parts by the firecrackers lit on Sunday nights shows figures from Delhi Pollution Control Committee. This is despite a ban on firecrackers in the city continuing vary. The most updated readings from these cities as of Monday suggested that air quality is deteriorating with several monitoring stations reporting a value of 400 classified as the severe category. The air quality of the Delhi is likely to be in the severe category on a Tuesday and Wednesday, according to the Center's air quality early warning system for the Delhi air pollution in the severe category affects healthy people and seriously impact those with existing disease, says the Central Pollution Control Board (CPCB). Another joint analysis by Climate Trends and Respire Living Sciences, which analyzed all India pollution levels on Deepavali Day in several cities, reported that the highest average PM2.5 pollution was reported from Patna, Bihar at 206 microgram per cubic meter, just as the IQAR ranking is 82 reports Delhi as being the most polluted city on the day after Deepavali. Meanwhile, Bangalore reported the lowest level of PM2.5 among the 11 cities analyzed, and their figures were lower than the last year's Deepavali. October 24, the report added phase out firecrackers. Already poor average PM2.5 levels crossed limits due to firecrackers in several cities. Our analysis shows that the widespread burning in defiance of the Supreme Court's order took away the gains in reducing pollutants that were made due to rain. The crackers industry must be phased out. And Arti Khusala, Director Climate Trends said Delhi and the other major cities must not continue to bear the burden of public health in name of the hollow support for tradition. We can look at community fireworks on lighting of lamps as done in Ayodhya last week. The hazardous air quality in Delhi, which the center attributed to stubble burning in Punjab, prompted emergency measures to be imposed, including plans to impose odd even rules on the use of cars as well as experiments with artificial rains and unexpected rain improved air quality by over 100% percentage point. Jaishankar meets a newly appointed UK Foreign Secretary. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar's official visit to London had a surprise twist on Monday when he met with former UK Prime Minister and the country's newly appointed Foreign Secretary David Cameron. The Mr. Jaishankar was scheduled to meet with James Cleverly as Foreign Secretary, but Prime Minister Rishi Sunak had undertaken a major cabinet reshuffle on Monday morning prior to Mr. Jaishankar's meeting. Congratulating him on his appointment, Mr. Jaishankar said he looked forward to working with Mr. Cameron closely, adding that the two ministers had held a detailed discussion on realizing the full potential of strategic partnership between the two countries. They also exchanged a view on the situation in West Asia, the Ukraine conflict, and the Indo-Pacific. He said Mr. Jaishankar will meet Mr. Cleverly in his new avatar as Home Secretary on Monday. Earlier on Monday, Mr. Jaishankar posted on X that he had met with another former British Prime Minister, Tony Blair, with whom he said he had discussed bilateral ties Africa and West Asia with UK Defence Secretary Grant Shapps. Mr. Jaishankar said he had discussed the perspective on global security challenges and convergences in two countries' approaches. Defense cooperation. He also discussed enhancing security and defense cooperation between India and the UK and opportunities for manufacturing defense-related goods in India. On Sunday, Mr. Jaishankar and his wife Kuiko Jaishankar met with Mr. Sunak and with his wife Akshata Murthy. The Jaishankars also visited the Swaminathan Temple in London for Deepavali. Mr. Jaishankar had moderated a discussion organized by the Indian High Commission London and the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office FCDO Wilton Park. The minister is in the UK until the end of the Wednesday. Ranil present budgets aimed at aiding the economic recovery in Sri Lanka. Sri Lankan President sorry, sir. Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe on Monday unveiled the country's budget for fiscal year of the 2024, outlining a significant increase in expenditure while setting ambitious revenue targets as he attempts to steer the island nations out of the last year's debilitating economic crisis, turning the task of economic revival following bankruptcy a formidable one. Mr. Wickremesinghe, who is also the finance minister, told Parliament, our country's situation is now better than what it was a year ago. I am not saying that the economy has recovered completely. It has become comparatively better. The largest component of the government expenditure, Mr. Wickremesinghe said, went towards the three areas: public sector salaries, pensions, and public welfare, and payment of interest on the government debt. According to the figures published in the budget, documented the highest expenditure among those will be incurred on servicing the country's debt and paying the interest. On the other hand, while Mr. Vikramasinghe acknowledged the government had failed to generate the targeted revenue of LKR 2.8 trillion for 2023, his budget set an even higher target of LKR 4.1 trillion for 2024. Commenting on the proposal, Umesh Muramadali, an economist at the University of Colombo, said that although the budget was largely focused on continuing the exercise of stabilizing the economy with revenue-based consideration, it concluded politically popular expenditure proposals such as the promised hike for public sector workers. The government says that they want to make cash transport to 2 million people, but 183 billion rupees LKR does not seem sufficient for that, he contended. Overlooked problems. The feminist collective for economic justice is an inland-wide group of the researchers and activist students studying in the impact of the crisis on women and the working people said that its concerns over the government's social security program excluding many of the poor remain. Further, the budget does not offer any substantive policy interventions or budgetary allocation to address challenges such as increasing malnutrition among children or food insecurity, while many Sri Lankan, especially children, continue to survive on just one meal a day, observed Nyanthini Kadir Gamar, a member of the collective. On the expenditure side, we see a considerable chunk of budget going towards the repayment of the interest on the government's loan. As for revenue, the government appears to have high expectations mainly by the collecting indirect taxes, but that would only further increase the burden on the poor, she said. Multiple studies, including by the World Bank, have pointed out to growing poverty levels in Sri Lanka, while Mr. Vikramasinghe pointed to the reducing rate of inflation. He admitted that we still could not corresponding increase salaries and income to match the high cost of the living which increased due to this severe crisis. The increase in prices of fuel and electricity adversely impacted all households. Authorities frequently point to the drop in the rate of inflation 1.5% in October 2023, but rarely mention that it is over and above the 70% witnessed last year. Leader of opposition Sajid Premadasa called the budget as a media circus, while prominent opposition voice and leader of National People's Power NPP Anura Kumar Dissanayake said the budget was based on the seeking more loans and selling state assets. तो लास्ट आज का जो आर्टिकल है पाकिस्तान एंड चाइना नेवी कैरी आउट जॉइंट सी पेट्रोल China and Pakistan are conducting the third edition of the Sea Guardian 3 bilateral naval exercise in the Northern Arabian Sea, with the Chinese media reporting that the two sides will also hold their maiden joint maritime patrol. The exercise is scheduled from November 11 to 17. The exercise comes just a day after 2 plus 2 ministerial dialogue between the India and the US, where the maritime security in the Indo-Pacific was in focus, and New Delhi announced its discussion to become a full member of the Bahrain-based US-led multilateral groupings Combined Maritime Focus (CMF) of which Pakistan is also a member. The exercise also comes a days after Russia and Myanmar held their first naval exercise in the Andaman Sea, China People's Liberation Army (PLA) Navy has deployed a Type 0.9093 strong class diesel electric submarine. For the exercise, China and Pakistan will conduct their first joint maritime patrol and will also exchange observers. The Chinese observers will participate with a Pakistani anti-submarine patrol aircraft. The official Chinese Army news portal reported other ammunitions. In addition to the conventional submarines, the PLA Navy has deployed guided missile destroyed Jibu guided missile frigates, Jinghua and Linui, along with the two ship-borne helicopters and a supply ship, Coinwell's lead ship of the Type 903 replenishment ships. Pakistani Navy has deployed 9 vessels along with three ship-borne helicopters, four fighter jets, and one maritime patrol aircraft. So, friends, this is all for today, and we will meet from tomorrow onwards with new news articles. So, thank you. Thanks a lot. And we will meet from tomorrow onwards from. Thanks a lot.